Hello, dear audience. Thank you so much for all the love and support for the previous episode. It is truly the biggest motivation for us to keep bringing you these heartfelt stories. Our channel is on the journey to reach 1,000 subscribers, so we would be so grateful if you could hit the subscribe button and leave a like for this video. Now, without keeping you waiting any longer, let's continue with the story. Kwang's survival that day was nothing short of a miracle. Just as the river threatened to swallow him whole, his body struck against a large drifting branch. His trembling hands clung to it desperately, and the current carried him toward a secluded islet, cut off from everything else. With the last of his strength, he crawled up onto the muddy bank, his clothes drenched, his skin pale from the cold water. Every breath was ragged, each gasp scraping against his chest as if reminding him how close he had come to death. He collapsed against the slope of the earth, staring blankly at the still, green water that moments ago had almost become his grave. His mind replayed the brutal attack, faces twisted with cruelty, fists and boots raining down, the suffocating sack around him before being hurled into the river. The images seared into his memory like fire, but beneath the pain was a more terrifying question. Who was behind this? Kwang's thoughts raced. This was not a random ambush. It was calculated, merciless, and meant to erase him completely. His brother's shadow loomed in his mind. Ambition, envy, betrayal. Could it be him? The thought chilled him more than the river had. Alone and wounded, Kwang knew he had no time to despair. If he wanted to live, he had to fight. If he wanted to protect Linda, he had to uncover the truth. With trembling resolve, he clenched his fists, whispering to himself, "This isn't the end." Not yet. Kwang stumbled through the thick undergrowth, his clothes still drenched and heavy, clinging to his skin. Every step felt like a battle, but his mind kept whispering the same command: survive. The forest was silent, except for the occasional call of a distant bird and the rustle of leaves in the wind. He scanned the ground, searching desperately for anything he could use. His father's voice echoed in his memory, lessons from childhood about how to endure when the world turned hostile. With trembling hands, he gathered a pile of dry twigs and brittle branches. His breath came in short gasps, but he forced himself to keep going. He remembered how his father once showed him to rub wood against wood, patient and steady, until smoke appeared. Kneeling on the damp ground, Kwang pressed two sticks together, moving them with all the strength he could muster. His palms burned from the friction, but he refused to stop. At last, a thin wisp of smoke curled upward, followed by the faint glow of an ember. Kwang leaned down, blowing gently, coaxing the fragile spark into flame. When fire finally erupted, the warmth rushed over him like an embrace. He sat. That afternoon, just like every day, Linda prepared food for the chickens in the small bamboo coop. The clucking sound of the flock filled the yard, bringing a bit of warmth to her otherwise quiet home. She bent down, scattering the feed, her mind still occupied with worries from the previous night. Suddenly, the familiar figure of Kwang's mother appeared at the gate. Linda quickly put down the bucket, wiped her hands, and hurried out to greet her. "Come inside, Ma," Linda said gently, leading her to the wooden table in front of the house. But today, Kwang's mother looked unusually serious. Sitting down, she kept her eyes on Linda, her voice low and filled with unease. "Linda, has Kwang contacted you?" "Last night. It was the first time he didn't return home. I tried calling many times, but his phone wouldn't connect." The words struck Linda like lightning. She froze, searching for a calm reply, but all she could do was shake her head. Kwong had indeed disappeared since the evening before. With the instinct of a mother, Kwong's mother could feel that something was terribly wrong. No matter how busy Kwong was with work, he had never failed to let her know if he would be late. Her eyes grew moist as she whispered, "I know, my son. If he hasn't come home and hasn't answered, it means something has happened to him." The two women sat in silence. The wind rustled through the bamboo walls, carrying with it a sense of dread. Linda clenched her fists beneath the table, trying to hold back the storm of fear rising inside her. She knew the woman in front of her was right. Kwong was in danger, and their lives were about to change forever. That same afternoon, Trung, Kwong's younger brother, entered the room with a firm expression, carrying a red folder tightly under his arm. Dressed in a crisp white shirt and dark tie, he exuded an air of determination. After greeting the board members, he sat down, his fingers briefly tapping the table before he began to speak. "Everyone, I've called this urgent meeting because we need clarity. My brother, CEO Kwong, will be absent for an indefinite period. Until he returns, I will take charge of the company's daily operations and overall direction." The statement immediately stirred murmurs across the room. Some exchanged uneasy glances, while others whispered among themselves. A few employees frowned, skeptical of the sudden announcement. Kwong had always been transparent with his team. Why was this time different? The atmosphere in the company meeting room was tense, filled with a mix of curiosity and unease. For years, every important decision had always gone through Kwong, the respected CEO whose calm authority guided the company forward. His sudden disappearance cast a shadow over the entire office. Normally, whenever Kwong traveled or stepped away, he would notify his assistant or leave instructions. This time, there had been nothing. No message, no call, not even a trace of his intentions. Yet, as Trung continued, his voice steadied. He reminded them that he was not only Kwong's younger brother, but also the newly appointed director, officially recognized by Kwong himself not long ago. The company, he insisted, could not afford to fall into uncertainty. Decisions had to be made, projects had to continue, and clients had to feel reassured. Slowly, the resistance softened. Heads began to nod, though doubt still lingered in their eyes. They understood that whether or not they fully trusted Trung, someone had to step in. Without leadership, the company would stumble. The meeting room gradually emptied, leaving only Trung, his cold expression hidden behind a mask of authority. He gestured for the department manager to stay. The woman, still clutching her notebook, entered his office with hesitant steps, sensing that something unusual was about to be said. "From today," Trung began, his tone sharp and uncompromising, "all the company's building materials will be replaced. Forget the high-quality contracts my brother insisted on. We'll switch to cheaper materials, immediately." The manager froze, her heart pounding. For years, she had worked under Kwong, who valued reputation and integrity above all else. The thought of cutting corners went against everything she had learned. Her voice trembled. "Sir, this has never been our policy. If clients discover the change, our credibility will be destroyed. The company could lose everything." Hunter's lips curved into a sly smile. He leaned back in his chair, speaking slowly, each word dripping with arrogance. "Tell me, do we work for reputation, or do we work for money? A company without profit is worthless. My way will bring in more cash faster. Clients won't even notice. Do as I say, or find another place to work." The woman stood silent, her face pale. She knew arguing further was dangerous. After a long pause, she lowered her head. "Yes, sir. I'll see to it." "Good." Trung's eyes gleamed with triumph. As she turned to leave, he tapped his fingers on the desk, suppressing a laugh that finally broke free. A laugh full of deceit and greed. 3 days had already passed, yet there was still no news of Kwang. His mother's heart grew heavier with each sunrise. That morning, before Trung left for work, she called him into the living room, her voice trembling. "Trung, have you seen your brother at the company? Do you know where he might have gone?" Her eyes, lined with fatigue, searched his face for the slightest sign of hope. But Trung answered with indifference, his tone cold. "It's been days since Kwang came to the company. He's a grown man, Mother. Where he goes or what he does, you don't need to worry so much. Since he left, I've been very busy. There are countless issues at the company that only I can handle." He straightened his tie, stood up quickly, and without looking back, added a flat, "I'm off to work." Before leaving the house, the door clicked shut, and silence wrapped around the room like a suffocating blanket. Kwang's mother sat still for a long time, her thoughts a storm. She looked around the house that once echoed with laughter, but now felt unbearably empty. On the wall hung framed family photos, frozen moments of happiness. Her 2 sons standing together, smiles bright, their arms draped over each other's shoulders. She stepped closer, running her hand over the glass as if she could touch them again, as if the warmth of those days had not yet vanished. Her chest tightened. She knew Trung's words weren't the whole truth. There was something in his eyes, a flicker too quick to be hidden, but she said nothing. Instead, she whispered to herself, "I can't wait any longer. If I don't search for my Kwang, who will?" Resolve hardened within her. She tied her hair back firmly, as though preparing for a journey, and took a long breath. Age and worry weighed on her, but the strength of a mother's love rose above them all. She could not sit idly by while her eldest son's whereabouts remained a mystery. Outside, the morning sun broke through the thin clouds, casting streaks of light across the family altar. She clasped her hands together, silently praying for Kwang's safety. Then, with quiet determination, she stepped toward the door, ready to begin her own search. The morning mist still lingered on the mountain road when Kwang's mother set out once again, her heart weighed down by uncertainty. Her first stop was at Linda's small bamboo house. As soon as Linda saw the weary figure approaching, she rushed out and held the older woman's hands tightly. "Mother, you look exhausted. Have you found any news about Brother Kwang?" she asked softly. Worry etched across her young face. The older woman shook her head, her eyes glistening. 3 days have passed, and no word. I can't just sit at home anymore. I thought maybe you might have heard something." Linda led her to a wooden chair by the small yard. The 2 sat facing each other, hands clasped, voices low but filled with urgency. Linda reassured her gently. "Don't worry, Mother. We'll search together. He often visited places I know well. If we go there, someone must have seen him." That promise sparked a faint hope in the mother's eyes. For a moment, she felt less alone in her fear. Together, they mounted her motorbike, determination pushing them forward. They rode through winding roads, past bamboo groves and small villages where children played barefoot in the dust. Their first stop was a construction site where Kwang had once overseen work. The mother approached one of the workers. "Have you seen my son Kwang around here recently?" she asked with trembling voice. The worker paused, thought for a moment, then shook his head regretfully. "No, madam. It's been a while since we last saw him." Her shoulders sank. But Linda squeezed her arm encouragingly. "Let's keep going. We can't give up." At the next site, where bricks were piled high and scaffolding lined the walls, the answer was the same. The workers only exchanged glances before shaking their heads. The mother bowed in gratitude, though her heart ached with every rejection. From place to place they went, another half-finished house, a roadside shop where Kwang sometimes stopped for tea, even a familiar village square. But everywhere, the story was the same. No one had seen Kwang for days. The journey wore on. Dust clung to their clothes, and fatigue lined their faces. Yet neither woman turned back. They moved as if driven by the same fire, the determination to bring Kwang home. As they stood by a half-built concrete house, the mother's knees nearly gave way. She lowered herself onto a nearby stone, her voice breaking. "Where could you be, my son? Why is it so hard to find you?" Linda crouched beside her, holding her hand tightly. "We will find him, Mother. Even if we have to search every corner of this village, we won't stop." After several days without anyone finding him, Kwang is forced to get used to the loneliness and the harshness of the forest. As dusk falls, Kwang sits among the dense trees, his calloused hands breaking branches and pulling leaves. With those, he builds a small shelter, fragile and rough, yet the only hope of warmth he can hold on to for the cold night ahead. Sweat trickles down his face, his once white shirt now stained with dirt. But in his eyes remains a glimmer of persistence. He knows he cannot give up. Deep down, he believes that his mother and loved ones must be worrying and searching for him. The shelter of leaves may be small and clumsy, but it gives him a sense of having a roof, a place to rest when the night closes in. Yet the hardships do not stop there. On this desolate island, there is no real food to be found. Kwang is left to chew on young forest leaves, their bitter taste filling his mouth as he tries to ease the hunger gnawing at his stomach. But soon, his belly begins to twist in pain, and discomfort spreads across his body, making him wince. Even so, Kwang endures. He sits silently, gazing toward the faraway forest where the sunset glows red behind the mountains. Amid exhaustion and hunger, a fragile hope still flickers within him. He whispers to himself, "As long as I'm alive, as long as I endure one more day, someone will find me." Inside his makeshift shelter, with the sound of wind rustling leaves and the night insects starting to sing, Kwang closes his eyes. He tries to forget the pain in his stomach, clinging to the belief that tomorrow will be brighter. The day had stretched endlessly for Linda and Kwang's mother. From the early hours of the morning until the evening shadows crept across the mountains, they had gone from place to place, chasing every fragile clue about his whereabouts. Everywhere they went, they received only sympathetic shakes of the head. No one had seen him. With each unanswered question, the hope in their hearts dimmed a little, replaced by heavier worry. By the time the motorbike's headlights cut through the growing dusk, both women were exhausted. The long ride back felt heavier than any journey they had taken. The later state ascent of a little piece of a problem was about her face, lined with years, now appeared drained and pale. The mother's hands trembled slightly as she held on to Linda's, her strength nearly spent. The weight of both age and grief pressed on her shoulders, and it was clear that the day's search had pushed her far beyond what her body could endure. The mother sank onto the front steps, her eyes distant, her breath shallow. Linda sat beside her, resting a hand gently on her shoulder, trying to lend comfort. "We'll find him, don't worry," Linda whispered, though her own voice was tinged with fatigue. The older woman gave a faint nod, her gaze fixed on the empty road, as though willing Kwang to appear at any moment. Later that night, Linda prepared a simple meal, arranging fresh spring rolls on a plate, but the mother had no appetite. Weariness and worry had stolen her strength. Linda guided her to bed, tucking the blanket around her like a daughter would. In the dim lamplight, the mother's face softened, her eyes closing at last. Linda sat quietly by her side, her heart heavy. That night settled heavily over the small house. The air was still, broken only by the faint rustle of leaves outside and the quiet breathing of Kwang's mother as she lay in bed, worn down by worry and exhaustion. Linda sat silently by her side, watching the lines of fatigue on the older woman's face soften as she finally drifted into sleep. In her heart, Linda knew tomorrow would bring another long day of searching. Yet she also understood that hope was the only strength keeping them moving forward. Stepping outside, Linda gazed into the dark mountain horizon. Somewhere out there, Kwang was alone. Perhaps struggling, perhaps waiting. The thought tightened her chest, but it also lit a small fire of determination. She whispered into the night, as if her words could travel across the hills. "Hold on, Kwang. We won't stop until we find you." And with that promise, the episode closed, on a quiet night filled with both sorrow and the fragile light of hope. The story of Linda and Kwang still holds many challenges ahead. Will they be able to overcome these dark days? Let's find out together in the next episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment to give us more strength to keep bringing you even more heartfelt episodes.
Chúng ta vừa cùng nhau đi qua một hành trình nhỏ nhưng lại chất chứa thật nhiều cảm xúc, từ những nỗi buồn, những giọt nước mắt cho đến cả những khoảnh khắc bình yên, giản dị vô cùng quý giá. Cảm ơn bạn đã đồng hành và lắng nghe đến tận những giây phút cuối cùng. Mỗi một lượt xem, mỗi một ánh mắt dừng lại, mỗi một trái tim cùng đồng cảm đều là nguồn động lực để những câu chuyện như thế này được tiếp tục viết nên. Nếu cuộc sống còn bộn bề, đôi khi chỉ cần những giây phút lắng lại, ta sẽ nhận ra rằng niềm tin, lòng nhân ái và sự sẻ chia luôn có sức mạnh chữa lành kỳ diệu. Và cũng chính nhờ có bạn người không ngại dành thời gian quý giá để đồng hành, mà hành trình của nhân vật trong câu chuyện này trở nên trọn vẹn hơn, ấm áp hơn. Dù phía trước vẫn còn nhiều chông gai